Hi guys and gals, Shane Stevenson here at the Buffalo Naval Park, and thanks for your continued support. Today I'm going to be talking using the what? The whiteboard. Alright, and we're going to be talking about a concept that might be a little esoteric. Alright, so I kept reading it in certain guides and reference books that I was reading, and I said, you know what, I got to try and get a handle on this. I hope I do, and I hope it gives you a better understanding. But of course, leave a comment if there's something that you're seeing that I'm incorrect or just not quite right. All right, and then I will, of course, reply to all of your comments as I always do. All right, so this is the concept of the immune zone, or the zone of immunity, or the IZ. All right, and what this was this was developed for cruisers. And it really became naval doctrine with the Bureau of Construction and Repair and the General Board, and it became a conscious concept that they used starting in roughly 1928, 1929. All right, so the Omaha-class cruisers have already been constructed. Now they're working on the second, not the second, but another set of cruisers, which becomes the Pensacola class and the Northampton class. Right, 1929, 1930. And of course this is trying to arise out of weapons and guns and calibers are becoming larger. All right, so you're going to get that seesaw, right, back and forth. So weapons become larger, that means ships try to stay farther away from each other, which then leads to the growth of larger caliber weaponry, different platforms, and at some point, obviously, weapons and projectiles and shells will always overtake armor. All right, so to not make it so definitive, they developed this immune zone, right, which is then would give the captain the ability to say, okay, there's some confidence if I'm within these ranges, will have some protection. Of course, immune doesn't mean full immunity either, though, of course. So let's take a look at the board. All right, so as I mentioned, it was with the Pensacola and the Northampton class. I spelled Pensacola wrong, so there you go. All right. And it was related, typically the IZ immune zone was related to, unfortunately, just one particular kind of enemy gun. All right, so what's the actual concept? The actual concept is for protection against the least range of protection for an armor belt. It is also protection against the greatest range for shell penetration, especially along the decks, the magazines, the machinery spaces, the turrets, the barbettes. All right, so the zone would be, and I have a little graph that I'll show you to explain it better. So if we're looking at the armor belt, what's the least range of protection against a weapon? So let's say at 1,000 yards it penetrates. Let's say at 2,000 yards a shell penetrates. 3,000 it penetrates, but 4,000, now all of a sudden the shell is protected, or it's not penetrating. So for the turrets and the decks, all right, again, machinery, spaces, main deck, armor decks, right, say just, again, these are just examples, at 9,000 yards, it penetrates. At 10,000 yards, a shell penetrates. At 11,000 yards, a shell penetrates, but at 12,000, it is kept out. So you're looking at the least amount of protection here, the shortest range that will actually keep it out, a shell out, is 4,000 yards. And then for the turrets and the decks and the shell penetration is 12,000 yards that it keeps it out. So for this particular ship, this ABCD ship, let's just call it, the immune zone is from 4,000 to 12,000 yards, at a particular weapon platform. All right, so it's penetrating, penetrating, penetrating. Now it's kept out, so that's the shortest range that you're actually keeping it out. Penetrating, 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 the greatest range that you're keeping it out. So for this ship, 4 to 12,000 would be the immune zone. And now that is used for construction purposes. All right, as you have shells growing in caliber, all right, and you're trying to stay farther away. Again, this gives the captain now an opportunity to say, within these ranges, we technically could be better protected. All right, so if you have, say, a turret, and you have a 3-inch armored turret on the top, it's 3-inch thick, that might protect you up to 17,000, 18,000 yards. But if you're able to add a 4-inch armor layer on the top of a turret or a mount, more than likely a turret, you might now extend it from 17,000 or 18,000 yards out to 25,000 yards, 26,000 yards. Same with the front of the turret, same with the sides of the turret and the back of the turret. So if you can make those with a thicker armor, you are protecting out at longer ranges, but what you're also now doing is you're sacrificing speed. Of course, and that's why there are so many schemes being developed, right? For different cruisers, there could be 8 or 9 different schemes, and then within those schemes, there could be A, B, C, and D, so 4 variations within each scheme. Because now you have to counteract the weight, you have to counteract the speed, and so you always have to try and find that balance, and that's what the General Board and the Bureau of Construction and Repair was doing so well in those years. All right, so you could have the zone of immunity. You know that you get a little better protection from this yardage to this yardage where you're keeping weapons out, and closer or farther away, or closer for both of them is where you're getting the penetration. All right, so in Norman Friedman's book, they give a little example of that. All right, during one of the designs for a preliminary design, all right, you see that this is where all of that protection would be. Now, how thick is it going to be? What is the penetrating rate or the immune zone? And then are you going to be sacrificing speed or turning radius or weight within that? All right, well, again, please leave comments. I hope you have a better understanding of what immune zone means, or zone of immunity. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you really like it, subscribe. And again, thanks. We've crossed the 10,000 subscriber threshold. And you know what? We'll see you again soon. Thanks so much, everybody.